Hey everyone, and welcome back to my completionist playthrough of Diablo 2 on Hardcore. And before we start our adventure in Act 4, I just wanted to mention that in between episodes I farmed 3, or well, almost 4 levels by doing some Flare Jungle and Kurast runs in Act 3, since we were beginning to lag behind in levels a bit. But now at level 54, 55, we're going to be getting better experience here, considering that areas in Act 4 are between level 56 and 58. And I want to make sure that we fight a lot of stuff this time around. But anyway, in that short farming session, I just found a few items of note, like Tear Haunch, an interesting pair of boots, but a little high on the strength required, and also the Angelic Ring. There's something to mention when it comes to wearing multiple pieces of Angelics. The ring is usually combined with an amulet, because then with 2 pieces equipped, it gives you a massive attack rating boost, which is of course going to be irrelevant for us, but if you have 3 pieces of Angelics equipped, this ring also gives you a 50% magic find, which might matter for us if we do happen to find the Angelic Amulet. Because aside from our Nagel ring, our 2 other jewelry pieces, our amulet and the other ring, only give us 33 magic find. And this of course would give us 50 if we have our Angelic Saber that we already have in our possession on our switch together with Rhyme, but we'll see how that's going to work out. Then I also found 2 more Demon Hide sashes and 1 mesh belt for the purpose of potential imbuing, and then some gems and items to recycle or use in crafting later. And also, before we set out to conquer this hellscape, we're going to sell some old junk. And now we're going to be ready. And yeah, like I mentioned, here on Nightmare in Act 4, we are going to stay a while and slay some demons. Because that is certainly not going to be the case on Hell, where these areas are much less friendly. And I've always liked killing enemies in Act 4 Nightmare, because this is where your character really hits their stride and can demolish Chaos Sanctuary, for example, which is going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, we're going to kind of explore a little bit more thoroughly the areas in Act 4 here on Nightmare. It's going to be fun. Frozen Orb is going to cleanse these demonic lands. The only kind of type of monster that is going to be slightly more resilient towards our Frozen Orb damage are going to be the Stygian Hags and Grotesques, which is kind of a monster type that we don't see already, but I am going to point it out later. The Stygian Hags have 50 cold resistance and the Grotesques have 70 on Nightmare. So even though we do have cold mastery and we are going to be able to deal decent damage to them, it is going to be noticeable that they are a little bit more capable to withstand some of that damage. Already got level 55. And yeah, let's deal with some juicy groups. Also, one other thing I wanted to mention is that, of course, now that we are finished with Act 3, we have unlocked the option of farming Nightmare Mephisto. And of course, him especially, together with Nightmare Andariel, can already drop a lot of good stuff for us. And we are definitely going to do a lot of runs. Well, I'm going to do a lot of runs on my own, but I think we're going to kind of make a special episode showcasing our Magic Find set and talking a little bit about doing farming runs like that. But I'm not sure when this is going to happen exactly. Maybe when we're done with Nightmare. Because right now I kind of want to just progress forward. Okay, this is not going to be too fun with so many of these souls. Although in Nightmare they are not, you know, extremely dangerous. It depends. There can be some burst happening. But we should be able to deal with all that. But anyway, of course, when it comes to some extending farming sessions of Nightmare Mephisto and Andariel, we are going to kind of talk about that in detail later. But I just want to signalize that, of course, we do have that option now. And it is going to be very important to actually farm some gear and also experience before we step into Hell. So even when we're done with Act 5 here on Nightmare, we are going to have to do some preparations before, you know, progressing to the next difficulty, because Hell in Diablo 2 is no joke. Here, of course, even though in Act 4 we don't have a lot of objectives to complete, we do have Iswal here to defeat and get that juicy +2 skills reward from Tyrael for doing so. And, you know, since there are no completionist objectives and no side areas to visit, and, you know, essentially just 2 quests that require you to step off the beaten path a little bit, not too many super uniques and all that, I do want to kind of just explore these areas more thoroughly and get a more fulfilling Act 4 experience this time around. Since, like I mentioned, on Hell we are going to kind of traverse through these areas pretty quickly, I think, without stopping too much to kill anything, or to kill much at least. We'll see how that is going to work out. Alright, there's his wall. Let's get some of these souls out of the way here. Alright, there we go. Oh, Sparkling Ball can't take that. That might sell well. Oh, and there was a jewel. I think we're done with the Outer Plains, and now City of the Gosh Darned. We're going to have these misshapen dudes. Oh, and here we're going to have the Stygian Hags, I think. Do get some monsters to defeat. Yeah, these ones. The ones that spawn the little crawling demons. Later on in the River of Flame there is another type of them called the Grotesque, and those are going to be the most resilient when it comes to our damage. But of course nothing that our maxed out Frozen Orb can deal with. Of course supported by the hefty amount of Cold Mastery that we have. But yeah, when it comes to the City of the Gosh Darned, I was actually reminded of something in the comments. Because on normal we actually came across a very rare quote-unquote opponent. One second. This is a topic that I would like to elaborate on a little bit. Is this another Sanders? Yeah, yes it is. Another pair of those.
I am overburdened.
But yeah, when it comes to that rare opponent, it's actually called an Evil Force, and it's a glass window that doesn't really do anything, but you can destroy it. And it is basically, well, possibly a remnant of cut content from the game, and that also reminded me of another thing. There are quite a few unreleased super uniques in the game files that unfortunately never made it into the final product, and they were pretty much finished design-wise. They had their special powers set, their names, their base monster type, everything. And they were mostly from Acts 4 and 5, and some of them seemed pretty cool, especially since they were monsters that normally don't have a super unique among them, like the Minotaurs or Succubi. And there's one succubus called Hell's Bell, for example, and there are some mods that restore those monsters. And here in Act 4, there were quite a few cool ones. There's one like Pit Lord or Venom Lord called Darkwing, although in the game files he is listed as Winged Death, I think. Both of those names are cool. Also, one of these Stygian hags or grotesques was called Taint Breeder. And I'm mentioning that evil force already because it's a very rare type of tile that you have to come across with that kind of ruined cathedral. And it is not likely that we are going to see it here. Well, speaking of some other, unorthodox opponents, we have these trapped souls, for example, that don't really do anything unless you come close. And they can hit you in melee range. Of course, we have already found our waypoint and the passage to the River of Flame, but let's just have a little bit more fun here and clear a little bit more of these monsters. I wouldn't mind some kind of a juicy, special, unique pack. Not immune to cold this time. Of course, that other one was immune to cold because of their natural high cold resistance, and then it was boosted by the cold enchantment that they had as their power. We're running low on our mana reserves. We're going to have to get a boost here. Actually use our waypoint. Let's first deposit some stuff. And here, just on like this page, for example, we can use it to dump all of our stuff that we have found in this episode. Another +2 to energy shield orb. Okay, that's nothing that we can sell. And since we do have that orb, and I think it's 27 mana versus 30 life whenever you switch for a moment to cast the energy shield from, doesn't really matter. This we can dump, this we can dump. 28 life from an amulet. That's, if we are maxed out on resistances without needing this 11 all res, which I think we do need right now. That could be something to boost our health total.
Hail to you, champion.
Alright, and now we can descend further into the bowels of hell. Yeah, here we have the grotesques. And here we have another level up. Very nice. A ring. Oh, I didn't hand in that Iswell reward. We're going to do it next time we're in town.
Impossible.
Isn't this fun? Just going forward and completely annihilating anything standing in the way. We are going to cleanse all of the filth dwelling in the Chaos Sanctuary, that's for sure. It's gonna be really fun. Let's actually retreat a little bit, not get into any precarious situations. All right.
Can't carry anymore.
Still some remnants of that special group and some other guys. I would like to inspect what's on the ground a little bit closer, although I don't think there's any like juicy drops in there, but we can get a couple of potions. I'm also on the lookout for any like branching paths from that
I am overburdened.
from where we're supposed to go, because of course we need to also destroy Mephisto's soulstone. And defeat Hephasto, aka Hephatso. Might be here. Yeah, it is, because of our questlog update. There we go. Even a small charm we got out of the deal. Just clear out the place, use a couple of more of our potions, and then our inventory is going to be a little bit more cooperative. We're going to get Hephasto's hammer in just a moment. Of course, here on Nightmare, the Hellforge is going to give us a rune from 12 to 22, so if we get a little lucky, we might get something pretty decent, although of course chances are that we're going to get a rune commonly found from just farming Nightmare Countess, and that's not going to be that cool. But let's see. Oh, it's just a soul. The minimum. Number 12. Oh man. Thank you, game. Oh well. That's a bit of a shame. We could have gotten a co or a pull that would perhaps you know, be useful for the purposes of making Heart of the Oak. We could have gotten a lum for a possible smoke or memory. But it's not too big of a deal. Here we have a couple of groups. And there we go, the end of River of Flame, or that section of it. Also, I wanted to mention something, that these statues, if you look really closely at their heads, they actually do follow you a little bit as you run through. They do change slightly. If that was more visible, I think it would give you a bit of a more ominous and nefarious effect, but anyway, it is there if you look closely enough. Yeah, now this time we're not going to just teleport straight to the Chaos Sanctuary. We're going to navigate through this other section of River of Flame. I always liked it visually. But of course with teleport it is super quick to just go straight to Chaos Sanctuary and not look back. We need another refill.
Good day.
I am going to pick up that reward from Tyrael. And now we're going to see what we got here. 29 lightning resist. I'm going to recycle most of these rings anyway. Alright, and now we just get a couple of potions and we're going to be ready for our push into Chaos Sanctuary. Alright, that's going to be cool. And let's go. Yeah, we all are also going to spend those 2 bonus skills into Meteor. It's already at a pretty high level. Also decently close to being maxed out. It's very nice, very nice. We are going to need that Meteor, especially when we step into Hell. Of course, it has already proven useful on many occasions here on Nightmare, seeing how, you know, we are getting those immunes more and more often, even double immunes sometimes. And here we have Chaos Sanctuary. We're just going to bust in there in just a moment. Right, freeze, please! Oh, another soul. Thanks, game.
I am overburdened.
Why can't we pick up that Grand Charm? What is going wrong here? All them juicy groups. Pretty nice.
I can't carry anymore. I am overburdened.
By the way, if you're a character without teleport, it sometimes matters to know that these first 2 kind of passages blocked in the center by the architecture, there's usually, well, not usually, but always, there is a, let me just check this ancient armor. It's not ethereal, it is going to have a couple of sockets. Let's just quickly inspect. Another 4-socket one. Alright, we do have that. Something with 2 sockets perhaps might be useful if we're going to make smoke, maybe for a mercenary, maybe for ourselves later on. We'll see what kind of drops we're going to get, but just to finish my thought. Here, this blockade that blocks the center. On one side, you have like this narrow corridor is much shorter, and then it branches out into a slightly wider space, and then it's the other way around. So in this passage, the left side is going to be the long, narrow corridor, and this one is the shorter one. So for a character without teleport, it sometimes matters to, you know, just comfortably get through those blockades, you want to use the shorter passage, of course, having, you know, much less of a chance to get blocked. Unless you're playing a character like, you know, a Bone Spear Necro is just the most classic example, where you want these creatures to be kind of grouped up in a line, or coming at you one by one, something like that. Then of course you might want to use the longer corridor as your way of approach. Well, you know, when it comes to Nightmare Chaos Sanctuary, you probably have a teleport staff anyway, so it doesn't really matter all that much. But on normal, it might. Another level up, thank you very much.
I can't carry anymore.
Here, it doesn't really matter what kind of order we're going to do the super uniques here and, you know, unlocking the seals. But on Hell, it's probably the most worthwhile to check the size first, if he is both cold and fire immune. And then if he is, it's probably worth to reset. It depends. Here on Nightmare, well, it depends on the mercenary situation. Like here on Nightmare, even if he is both cold and fire immune, we are going to be able to... this seal is a little bit more problematic for telekinesis. You know, it's not going to be a problem with our mercenary now that he has his weapon equipped. It's not... alright, he's just immune to fire, so it doesn't matter either way, but our mercenary would be able to deal with him with the help of our static field. He would be able to finish off the last 33 remaining % of his health. Alright, and it seems like that is it when it comes to our Chaos Sanctuary. Wasn't too crowded. Sometimes you can have a little bit more stuff to kill, but it was fun anyway.
Carry anymore.
Not even death can save
Alright. That's great. You generally want to kind of kite him out of that arena in the middle to have a little bit more space to maneuver. Especially considering the, you know, kind of medium range of Frozen Orb. And there we go. Wow, pretty skimpy drop from dear Diablo. Is it even worth
Terror
to
stalks
Tetris our inventory for this? Well, anyway, that is going to be it for for Act 4. Even if you do prolong your experience here, it is of course going to be much shorter than other acts. Oh, see, here we got a skiller. +1 to Shadow Disciplines for the Assassin. You might want to re-roll it, or I don't know. Of course, normally when you play with PlugY and, you know, without any like self-find rules or whatever, of course you want to be collecting that type of gear for the occasion of, you know, whenever you create another character. That might be useful for them. Of course, Shadow Disciplines, you know, not the greatest skiller out there, but it is something. And then we have Rip Hook, A kind of slowing bow with open wounds. It's kind of a utility bow to limit the or stop the regeneration of monsters. That is a more real problem on Hell. But anyway, nothing left for us to do now other than to progress to Act 5. Alright, and here we are going to, of course, start out once again our adventure in the Barbarian Lands, I guess, climbing that Ariat mountain in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.